He's a smug.
What?
A smug. That's Jewish for brick, right?
This is Schmuckast.
Hey there, hi there, what's up?
Ho there. I'll take the ho. That's fine. I'll take over. This is Matt Weatherford and
Lenny Sherman.
Lenny Sherman, short for Shermanator. Anyways,
No. Shut
welcome
up.
back to Schmuckast. You hate being called that. I'm sorry. We're not going to do that again.
Welcome to
So
Schmuckast.
anyways. Okay, so you were working on a video. I'd like to know what it's about, and you want to go over it with me. That'd be great.
I was ranking the Star Wars films.
All right, cool. How much research did you do?
Not much. I don't need to do much research.
Oh, okay. Did you
But I
rewatch
did
them?
I did it a little differently because I have a really hard time ranking each film separately. So what I've done is I've put different films on different tiers. So there's basically five
you can't do
different
that.
tiers of quality.
You can't do that.
I absolutely
You
can
got to
do
rank
it.
them. You can't do it that
No,
way.
yeah, I can. Sure, I
No,
can.
you got to rank them.
I'm not ranking them. No, they are ranked. They are ranked by these five tiers.
You put them in groups.
I put them in groups. That's the only way I can do it because there are certain sets of these films that I can't
Oh,
decide
come
what's
on.
better
Let's
than the
rank
other.
them. I know Jedi's your favorite. You can rank them. It's not that hard to do.
I'm not ranking them. See, this is why I didn't want to do this with you, because I have
Oh,
my
you
own.
knew.
Yeah, I knew
Okay.
you'd have a problem
All
with
right,
this.
you take it away. I'll listen and I'll side commentate whatever you want, man.
Sure.
Put them in tiers then. Go ahead.
All right.
You want to
So
start with the bottom?
There's five. No, I'll start at the top. There's five tiers. Top, obviously, being the top shelf, top tier Star Wars films, and the very bottom one is the ones I don't really think are that great.
And what movies are counted? All of them?
Just the
Nine?
nine
The
Skywalker
Skywalker
films.
Saga?
Skywalker in quotes, because the last three really weren't about the Skywalkers, but you need to make back your
God,
investment.
I
Disney.
don't want to think about these movies right now. The recent trilogy, because I think it's safe to say for everybody, because, well, I speak for everybody, right? I think we can. A lot of people can agree the trilogy itself was just pretty disappointing.
Well, not Force Awakens. Force Awakens was fine. It was very promising. Wasn't great.
Yeah, it was very top tier. See what I did there?
We'll see what we'll see.
It was a
We'll
top
see
tier.
if it
All
is
right.
or not.
Take it away, Lenny.
So there's five tiers. So the top tier for me, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
Right. Yeah, it goes
A lot
without
of
saying.
people would say A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, but Empire and Jedi to me, it's like a two-parter. It basically feels like one film. Whereas A New Hope set up everything, it set up the characters, and it's its own film though. It didn't really it ended. It had a self-contained ending. Empire and Jedi, even though they were directed by two different directors, feel very cohesive to me. They feel very close together. They take place about a year apart.
You don't think all three feel cohesive?
The first one to me feels a little more distant because the characters are so young. And, you know, in Empire, obviously, we have the big revelation with Darth Vader, and that revelation that, you know, all the pieces come together and are explained in Jedi, whereas Star Wars didn't really give us any
I'd
of that
say the whole
stuff.
trilogy is very cohesive. All three movies. It's a great trilogy. It's my favorite trilogy of all time.
All right.
So it's hard to say, like, well, this one, not so much. It really
Empire
is.
and
All three are
Jedi, to
just-
me, go closer together, though. They really do go hand in hand. What I'm getting at is that A New Hope is a standalone movie. And really, if you look at the entire franchise, A New Hope is the only movie that doesn't rely on what came before or what came after. All the other films, all the other 8 films, all rely on either what came before or what came after.
And there's not more we can say about Empire. We've been over it how many times by now?
Yeah,
You know what
and
I mean?
I've
We've
always
talked about
said that
it
Jedi is the better film to me, but sometimes it's really hard. When I was a kid, I always loved these two the most, and it was always hard for me to say which one was better. I will say that I think Empire has a better look to it, and it's probably better directed. The acting is like top notch, but I think as a conclusion, Jedi just ups its game so much. I mean, there are so many great moments. The beginning of Jedi and the end of Jedi are very strong, and you could say the middle part where they're on Endor and you've got the
that's my
Ewoks
main
and all
gripe with
that.
that movie.
I think that's what a lot of people's gripes are.
That's-
But it's
You really
know,
still think it's good? Like, you watch that scenes and you really don't think, like, this is kind of
yeah, I do.
unimpressive?
I do, but at the same time, you also have a beginning and an end that are very
phenomenal.
strong. And the middle part, I don't have a problem with the Ewoks. I like the warmth of the Ewoks. I like, if you look at Star Wars, you see 3PO and he's like, well, I'm not much of a storyteller. And then what's he doing in Return of the Jedi? He's telling a story about their past adventures, and he's doing it with sound effects. And I love that scene. I love the speeder bike scene. I like. There's not a lot of downtime in Jedi, to me at least, and it's all prone to opinion. We all have our own personal tastes. So there's a lot of people out there that don't like the Jabba sequence. They feel like that's a totally different movie and it doesn't really fit in Jedi. To me, that's my favorite sequence of basically the entire series, is that Jabba sequence. I also liked, and this is predating the special editions, before they added Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope, you had 2 movies where you knew who Jabba the Hutt was. You knew that Han had a backstory with him. You didn't actually see Jabba till Jedi. Now you've got Jabba in A New Hope. You've got him in The Phantom Menace. There's no surprise anymore, which every time they go back and redo some of these movies, they take away some of that mystery because they have to explain everything in prequels or whatever. But I like the fact that in Jedi, you finally got to see Jabba for the first time. It was that movie. And Jabba is one of my favorite designed characters.
And it's stunning the way the movie is. Like, his reveal is so cool. When they go up to the door and the eyeball talks to them, and then all of a sudden, boom, there he is in all his splendor, and it's pretty amazing.
But you go back to Empire, like one of my favorite battles in the entire saga is the Battle of Hoth. Those AT-ATs for the first time, or the AT-STs, whatever. Seeing them in action, those effects still hold up. And
you had wonderful character interaction between like Leia and Han, and all the characters. It was just a masterpiece, really. I mean, to me, that's why Empire really is the best. Is there's nothing I can complain about with Empire. With Jedi, I can find faults, and with New Hope, even though it's one of my favorite movies, I can find faults.
And that's
Empire, can you point me out a fault in Empire Strikes Back?
I can't point you a fault to Empire, really. I know there are some people that feel that the middle of Empire drags, too.
Like what, though?
When they're like on Dagobah, some people...
The Yoda sequences drag on. I can't see it.
That's how I feel about Jedi, though. Like some of the things that you
feel that's why they're both top tier.
I will say that in Jedi, the performances are a little lacking. Not to the point where they're distracting.
I'm sorry, Harrison Ford mailed it in. Do you still disagree with that?
I do a little bit.
I just didn't really like him in this movie.
I don't think it's Harrison Ford in that movie. I just feel that like that character wasn't given much to do in that movie.
Yeah, well, he wasn't, was he?
But I don't think that's Harrison Ford's fault.
Right.
Jedi, a lot of the problems with that was that when you look at Lucas's original script, they had done pretty much everything they wanted to with Star Wars and Empire. So when they got to Jedi, they were challenged with coming up with new material. That's why you have a second Death Star. That's why it feels closer to A New Hope, was because they had almost run out of material at that point. At that point, their job was to close off this story. So, like, Han didn't have a lot to do. Carrie Fisher, her performance was a little down, and so was Mark Hamill's. I think a lot of that was because at that point he was a Jedi, so his acting had to change a little bit with his character. But it never...
I'll give Jedi this, man. It ends awesome. Like the whole Luke and Vader angle, and the battle on Endor, and maybe not the battle on Endor, the one in outer space. Where the fuck that was?
Well, that whole thing is the Battle of Endor.
Oh, okay. Right.
But I mean, the ground battle was great too. I loved seeing the Ewoks taking out the chicken walkers with the fucking
I tried doing it. I don't want to talk about the Ewoks. But whatever. That's all good. Because you nailed it. The beginning and the end of that movie are amazing.
Yeah.
For at least the first 40 minutes.
And the storytelling in both Empire and Jedi are very solid.
Yeah.
Even though Jedi does...
To me, Empire just is perfect. There's no faults.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't like rating these movies traditionally. It's because a lot of people, they look at a movie, they look at the flaws, and they take points away based on those flaws. I hate doing that.
What do you pick then, Empire or Jedi?
Well, that's why they're on the top tier.
It sounds like you're picking Empire.
No, it doesn't.
Because you can't find any faults in Empire, even though there are a couple in Jedi.
That's not fair, though. That's not fair to say I like Empire better because it's got less faults. That's not fair.
Why not?
I don't, because when I watch a movie, I don't want to be a kindergarten teacher and grade these things like a report card. So what? Well,
but you're saying the middle section lacks, whereas Empire doesn't at all. So I mean, honestly, Empire's the better movie. It makes sense to me.
Okay, well, I don't look at it that way. With Empire and Jedi, you were saying that because I find Empire less flawed, that I should like Empire better. I don't like judging a film that way because all I can do is go by what I enjoy more. And I personally find myself enjoying Jedi more than Empire in spite of its flaws.
Yeah, there you go.
So, it's hard for me to say, well, this movie has more flaws, so I enjoy it less. That's a logical way of looking at an emotional experience. I don't like taking away from a movie.
Is there a little nostalgia there, or no?
Not really, because growing up, I watched Jedi less than any of the other films because what would happen was I could never watch these movies by themselves. Like you said, all three of them are pretty much one movie. So I would always start with A New Hope and go to Jedi.
It feels like one movie.
But by the time I got to Empire, I'd be so tired that I would never usually get to Jedi.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of watch Jedi on its own, and I actually the whole the Luke Vader relationship, that never surprised me because it's like you grow up, that line of dialogue becomes so engraved in culture that it's hard to be surprised by that. The relationship, the revelation that did surprise me was when I found out that Leia was Luke's sister.
Yeah.
Even though that was basically just shoehorned in there to resolve the love triangle, really.
They revealed that in Empire, or was that revealed in Jedi?
It was revealed in Empire that there was another Skywalker, and then in Jedi you find out it's Leia.
They revealed that in Jedi.
In Jedi, yeah. And again, that was basically to resolve the love triangle. I think that was just something they developed in Jedi. I don't think Lucas had that in mind from the beginning, because then the kiss in Empire between Luke and Leia would have been really creepy if that were the case.
And as much as I like Jedi, and I think it's great that you love it, I mean, it's awesome. As long as you love it, and I like it too. And that's my favorite moment in Star Wars history is when Luke's about to be put into the
Sarlacc.
Can I get it right this time?
The Sarlacc
and the
pit.
music kicks in. He gets his green lightsaber. I get goosebumps every time. That sequence to me is like the high point of the whole series.
And some of these movies, all these movies
I don't
are,
know what it is.
aside from the storytelling, these movies have highs and lows. And Empire and Jedi, I think, just has a perfect balance of just really
both
high
those
highs.
movies do. Both those movies that are in your top tier do, for sure. They go hand in hand.
Those are my top
Any
tier.
other thoughts, or those are your favorite pretty much then?
Those
That's
are
the top tier?
those are top tier
What
Star
do they
Wars
get on the
movies.
Schmuckast meter? 10s or 9s?
I'm not rating them. So moving on.
A 10. It's 6 gay stars.
They're both
Okay,
very
sorry.
very good. And those two movies are what set the bar for other Star Wars. All Star Wars movies are compared to those two, I feel.
Yeah.
So,
Well, just the original trilogy in general. Really.
yeah.
The best since the OT, people always say.
The second tier.
All right, here we go.
And this is going to
Drum roll.
surprise some people. Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes.
By far the best of the prequels.
And well, it's best of the prequels for sure, but I really think that one comes very, very close to being right there with Empire and Jedi. I almost put it on the top tier with those two. Reason why I didn't is because it does have some lows. It does have some of the major
agree.
problems that the prequels have. The thing about Revenge of the Sith is there are so many highs in that movie that I totally forgive the lows. I have to, because the writing is solid. The storyline is more mainstream than the prequels.
You know, the biggest problem to me was Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
Who I actually like. I think she's a good actress.
She's
but
a
in
big
this movie.
She's a big problem for me all across
all
the
the
board.
scenes. All the scenes with her and Hayden are just. I think those are the lows you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. And we'll get to that later.
Do
But
we have to?
yeah, Natalie Portman. Now I heard a rumor, and I don't know how true this is, but apparently, she acted bad in The Phantom Menace on purpose. I don't know if you heard the story. She acted bad on purpose because she wasn't allowed to have any of her friends on the set.
Wow.
I don't know if that's true or not. I would like to think that as a professional actress, she would recognize the importance of this franchise and she would try to give it her all despite not being allowed friends on the set. But anyway, yeah, I have a huge problem with Natalie Portman all across the board in this series.
In all 3 movies, yeah.
Yeah. She was by far the worst part of these movies.
Which is
to
weird
me.
because she is generally considered a really good actress.
I don't know if she just can't do fiction, like science fiction stuff. I really don't know because I didn't like her in the Thor movies either, and those have a
But
science
she had like no
fiction vibe to
chemistry
me.
with Hayden, and it's not their fault. It's just sometimes people just don't. Fit
Yeah,
very well
I
together.
think part of that is the way the characters are written. Natalie Portman, Padme's character, really, if you look at it, her character couldn't exist without Anakin.
Right.
She doesn't really have a lot. Like Leia was very independent of everybody else. She was her own character. Padme only exists as an obstacle or as a romantic subject for Anakin. And that's a problem. I also, Hayden Christensen, I'm not going to say he's bad all the way across the board. There are parts of these movies that he does that I really like.
There's plenty of moments that he's not that good though.
Exactly. And it's been
Safe
said
to say.
it's been said that he's great when he's just able to emote. As soon as he opens his mouth, it's all downhill.
So, some of it has to do with the writing. Some of it.
The character is
It's hard
written
to deliver lines like that.
kind of clumsily, and the writing is, when it comes
At
to the
times,
romantic
not good.
dialogue, it's terrible, and we'll get to this
It's
later.
really bad.
But aside from that, there's very little interaction of him and Padme in this movie. And there are scenes with Natalie Portman that I do kind of like. Every scene that Ewan McGregor is in is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's a scene where...
Well, that goes for the whole trilogy, I'd say, too.
For the whole trilogy, but more in this because it really focuses on their relationship in this one more than any of the other ones.
Anakin's the father. I'm so sorry.
I love that scene.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite scene of this entire trilogy. That beginning shot, what's called the waterfall shot, the tracking shot of the two ships as it goes over that Star Destroyer.
Yep.
That's the best shot in the entire series, right next to the Star Destroyer coming overhead in A New Hope. Awesome shot. That first 20 minutes is amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
The fact that we get to see Yoda fight the Emperor, I never thought in a million years I would see that. Being able to see Anakin transform into Vader was awesome. I never thought I'd see that.
For the most part.
I thought it was great. If you're going to judge the whole movie on no, then... I can't help you there.
That was a little ill-advised.
I'm not gonna defend it. And my least favorite part of any of the special editions is adding that at the end of Jedi. I fucking hate that change.
I know.
But again, anything with Ian McDiarmid is a win. It's a home run. The ending of that movie is amazing. Yeah. I can't say there's not very many bad things I have to say. There are some though. And I can't say that about Empire and Jedi. Empire and Jedi, there's no bad scenes.
I think that movie is just as good as the original trilogy. I feel weird saying it, but I really feel like that movie comes very close to it being as good.
It does. It's very close. And I think a lot of it has to do with the storytelling. It feels like with that one, that was the story that Lucas he wanted to tell us that story.
I know.
But he needed 2 movies to get up to that point.
See, that is the problem. You could have just made that movie and it would have been awesome. Yeah. You know what I mean?
The problem is we had 3 movies that were numbered, 4, 5, and 6. So we needed a 1, 2, and 3. Had he just not numbered the movies, we could have just had one.
A lot of those first 2 movies, man, a lot of it feels like filler. It really does.
Yeah.
It just
I'm not going to disagree with you.
You know.
Yep.
But in Return of the Sith, I can't say that about that movie. That movie, and it's
Revenge
a fucking
of the
ride.
Sith. Don't take returns,
yes,
they make revenges.
That's true, my friend. I'm sorry. I digress. But yeah,
Yeah.
That movie's fucking great.
Order
from start to
66. I never really liked how basically the clone troopers were programmed to stab the Jedi in the back. But that whole scene of them going and killing all the Jedi and the music,
it was like poetry.
It's like John Williams' best score.
Yeah.
Like I love that score. It's
amazing.
Beautiful. So yeah, just because it has some severe flaws that hamper it, that's why it's 1 notch down.
I give it like an 8 out of 10. What do you give it?
I'm not rating it.
Oh, that's right.
Go ahead.
Anyways.
So third tier.
Wait, okay, so that was just it? That's the only tier?
That's the only tier for Revenge of the Sith. It's hard because that one movie, it's like there are so many awesome. That one has more highs than any other movie.
So that's your 3 favorite Star Wars movies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
right.
so that's
good. Level 3 Star Wars. It's a tie between A New Hope and The Force Awakens. It is really hard for me to say. I know what you feel about Force Awakens. I know what you think about Force Awakens. I feel that both movies do exactly what they set out to do extremely well. They both set up their respective trilogies. And it's hard for me to pick which one is which because Force Awakens is A New Hope with a fresh coat of paint. But I do think that it did enough fresh things to stay fresh and original. I will say that the movie doesn't hold up quite as well if not for the original trilogy characters. If you didn't have Han and Leia coming back in that movie, I don't think it would have worked.
You want to invite this conversation, but I'm sorry, but Star Wars is 10 times better than Force Awakens.
All right. Hey, I know I'm not alone. I'm just
10 times better.
It's all a matter of taste. It's all a matter
Worlds
of
better than that movie.
All right.
George Lucas, come on. How could you say that?
Don't bring George Lucas in
this. You really
this.
believe that?
You can't bring George Lucas.
JJ did just as good of a movie as George did back in 77. No.
It's hard. That's hard to say because the movie came out 30 years later.
I know it's hard to say.
But you also can't bring George Lucas in that conversation because Lucas also directed Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Well, guess what? The claws are coming out. You gotta change that. That can't.
No.
Come on.
I don't have to change.
You're looking me down the face and you're saying JJ made just as good of a movie as George did.
I do.
I
do for different reasons. It's fine, dude. It's okay.
George is like your hero. How could you say JJ?
I would say that George is my hero, but
that's
Force
bad.
Awakens is light years better.
Can you put Star Wars above?
Can
Force
I
Awakens?
talk for a minute without you interrupting me? It's my opinion. I don't have to say what you think is. Fine, you make your own fucking
I should have been
list.
quiet. I said
you can say your opinion, but don't tell me I've got to change my opinion because it's not popular.
You don't think you could? You just don't think?
No.
You don't think Star Wars is better than Force Awakens?
I think I like them both about the same. I even told you at one point that I thought Force Awakens was better, and you laughed at me.
Well, yeah, because you're admitting JJ made a better movie than George. I can't believe it. I just won't believe it.
But again,
I shan't believe
I
it.
love George, but just because we can't worship everything our heroes do. Our heroes
can.
make mistakes.
I do.
Is George Lucas your hero?
I feel strongly about that movie because it's like one of my top 10 favorite movies. And I
understand
like it
that.
being,
But
I can't say Force Awakens was just as good as that. I just can't do it.
well,
Just can't do it.
George Lucas also directed the 2 Star Wars movies
I know
that you
he
hate.
did. He
so
did.
I'm just saying.
I know.
Would you say Force Awakens is better than Phantom Menace?
Well,
and Attack
yeah,
of the
I'm just talking about
Clones?
the
Okay.
original movie. That's all.
Well,
That's all I'm saying. I just think
I
it's
will
a lot
say
better than
that
Force Awakens.
if you're looking at the time that A New Hope came out, yeah, it did more original things.
Thank you.
Okay, but I'm looking at it from an entertainment point of view, what they both do for their respective stories. And I am just as entertained by Force Awakens as A New Hope. They both have the same level of flaws. Their pacing is off in both movies.
You can't make 6 tiers?
No. No, to me, they stand on the same level. And I'm not. If I was just looking at originality, obviously Force Awakens would not be on the same tier. I'm not looking at just originality. I'm looking at from a pacing perspective, from the pacing point of view. I always told you I thought Star Wars had pacing problems.
I know.
That first 20 minutes is boring. That's my opinion. A lot of people.
It's not boring.
It is boring.
The Star Destroyer over your head, the giant space
Well, that's
battle.
great. But after that space
Okay.
battle, which
Darth
takes all
Vader coming in and
which
wrecking
all,
everybody,
yeah, all that's
not
2
good?
minutes of screen
Okay.
time. After that, it's just droids walking in a
They
fucking
meet Luke
desert.
Skywalker.
Yeah,
I
for
don't
20
I don't
minutes.
see where it lags.
For 20 minutes. You
Well,
need,
the first 15 minutes were the space battle,
okay,
which
but,
you said was good.
but there's no visually it's good, but there's no context to that battle. It's just Princess Leia talking to Vader about something we don't
Well, if
really
we've
know
seen
about.
Rogue One, there is context.
But I'm not including Rogue One.
Well,
in
then
this
do it.
list. And you
It's
shouldn't
canon.
need another movie before it to give it context.
Yeah. Well, it helps. It just helps, though, is all. It helps put it into context.
Now you're trying to get me to change my mind by putting in all these bullshit arguments.
I'm not. There's no bullshit about it. There's nothing.
Don't bring Rogue One into this. Rogue One does
Oh.
not even compare to these movies.
Well, okay. I'm just saying that we have been given context now. Now we have.
I'm looking at
This
these
isn't
two movies by
1974.
themselves. I'm not sitting there putting in Rogue One and all the
All right.
novels and stuff.
This isn't 1977, though. That's all I'm saying. Wait, what am I saying? What the fuck am I saying, actually?
I have no idea. I get it, dude. You want to. I'm not. That's the thing. It's hard for me to say which is better than the other. I enjoy them just as well because they're both beginnings.
I
to
can't believe
trilogies.
you're even having a debate about it. I just don't get it. I just don't see how you can admit that JJ made a better movie than George.
Well, I don't consider A New Hope one of my all-time favorite movies.
No, I
like
know,
you
but
did.
I'm going to say it again. You think JJ could have made a better movie than George did?
I didn't say he made a better movie. I said that I enjoy Force Awakens about as much as I enjoy.
So
A New
just
Hope.
as good then, at least.
It's just as good.
So
to
good
me.
for JJ then. Good for JJ.
That's all I can really say. I don't understand why you would say that A New Hope is drastically better than Force
It
Awakens.
is because I feel very strongly about Star Wars. It's like one of my. It's up there for me, man. I can't help it. So if I hear
And see, if you're going to talk
compared
about
to something like Force Awakens,
if you're going to
I'm sorry.
bring in nostalgia, you would think that I would pick A New Hope because I've watched it 50
Right.
more times.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm not bringing in nostalgia into it
Oh.
because Force Awakens has a lot of nostalgia as well.
Well, they're all nostalgia in a way
Well,
for us because we've especially you. You watched
I
them
think
longer
the
than I
prequels
did.
actually are not about nostalgia, which is why I
No.
respect the prequels a little bit more.
That's true. But like me and you, at least we've watched those movies when we were kids and grew up on them.
Yeah.
So.
But
There is no
here's what I'll say about Force Awakens. Had Force Awakens come out in the 90s, had it come out like right after Jedi, I think I would have loved that movie as much back then as I do now. Not
Yeah.
love, but you know what I'm saying. It feels, and that's my problem with Force Awakens is that as a sequel, it doesn't feel necessary. It doesn't continue the story
Kind of lazy.
the way. Yeah, it is. It is
Actually,
But
very
I'm-
lazy when you think about the story writing. But yeah.
Sure. But I also think it was necessary to tell it that way because people hated the prequels.
Right.
So what do you do?
They played it safe, is what they did.
They played it safe.
Yeah.
And I feel for what it did for Star Wars, I made a prediction way back when. I said Force Awakens is going to be kind of the special one, the one that makes you feel nostalgia. And after that, they're going to start going downhill a little bit.
Yeah,
And I was right.
You did say that.
I was right.
You were very right, actually.
And do I think The Force Awakens fell short? Yeah. But look, I still watched Force Awakens and that scene where they look at the Millennium, they reveal the Millennium Falcon for the first
Right, the
time. I
Jungle Dude,
still get
yeah.
goosebumps, and you can't tell me you don't get goosebumps when you see that scene. Even 2 years after the movie came out, or 4 years after the movie came out, I still watch that scene I still get a tear in my eye
That's
when
good.
I see Han and Chewie walk into. You can't tell me you don't watch that
Yeah,
movie
I mean,
and
yeah,
don't feel that.
There was.
Okay. Well, I don't feel that about any other movie. I honestly don't feel that about A New Hope because I've seen A New Hope so many times. But Force Awakens is still fresh to me.
Also, there you go. I mean, I got nothing else really to say. I mean, that's all fair, you know.
Are you sure you're not looking at it through the prism of nostalgia? A New Hope.
No, I objectively think Star Wars is one of my favorite movies.
And that's very fair.
Without any reservations. I love that movie from start to finish. It just I don't know what it is.
But I mean, you've also said you like A New Hope more than Return of the Jedi, right?
Yeah.
It's like your favorite one.
yeah, the first
Okay,
two are
well,
my
that's-
favorite. I mean, the
Well,
first
there you go.
two.
A lot of
Of
people
course.
think that. I just happen to think that there's a bunch of parts.
Yeah.
The first 45 minutes of A New Hope drag to me. Until they get to Mos Eisley and meet Han, that movie does kind of drag.
And Obi-Wan and
Yeah, that it kind of drags to me. It's just people
so really
talking.
the whole Luke on the farm with the droid part is what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
And I'm not saying it's bad. It's very inventive, but when you look at how a movie is structured, A New Hope is very strange. The pacing is very strange. And The Force Awakens has similar pacing
Star Wars
issues.
is in itself a pretty strange movie. I mean, just it is. On paper, it's very weird.
I mean, if you were to do Star Wars traditionally, if Lucas had done it more traditionally, you would have introduced Luke right away.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have waited 20 minutes to introduce your main character. That's a very weird choice.
I think that's why people embraced it though, because it was so different. You know what I mean? That's why it got popular because it was just no one
And
had
I'll
seen
be-
anything like that before.
And I'll be the first to say I'm more of a conventional storyteller. I like conventional stories. So when I see things that are really out there that I can't relate to.
Well, that first movie has a pretty clear story. I mean, you save the princess, you save the galaxy. It's very.
Yeah, an hour in.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying the overall story of the movie.
No, that's why it's hard for me to pick which one I like better.
Yeah.
It's hard. They're both on the same tier. To me, they're both the same level of quality.
And you do ask yourself why even bother picking. I mean, you do like it all, and it is like one movie.
That's why I
So just
decided.
enjoy
Do
it
you
that way.
understand now, though, why I put them on tiers as
No.
opposed to saying which one is better?
No, I could rank them, but it'd be hard.
Well, that's why I put them on tiers.
I generally agree with you.
It's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to say Force Awakens is better than A New Hope or vice versa because I enjoy them about the same. That's why I put them on
There you
tiers.
go.
So there we go. Now this is where it gets interesting.
Oh, now it is.
Yeah. The fourth tier of Star Wars
So we're getting to
encompasses
the shitty tier kind of.
yeah
The below
the
average.
Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones,
Yeah.
and The Rise of Skywalker, all in the same
Yeah.
tier. So we all know what the last one is.
It's last something.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So these three are on the same tier, and you'll probably disagree with me on this a little bit, but Rise of Skywalker is the lowest rated Star Wars movie on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
who cares about Rotten Tomatoes though?
Well, you're always bringing it up to me.
I'm not.
You do all
Okay.
the time.
Well,
All the time. You do.
That is a dismissive in court. That does not qualify as evidence
Whatever.
of its quality, just because Rotten Tomatoes says.
No, but I'm just pointing it out there. The reason why these three are on the same tier, these three to me are movies that are very watchable, but they tend to be very forgettable, and they have a lot of flaws.
Some of them.
They all have the same amount of lows.
Some of those movies are watchable. Some of it is unwatchable. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Come on. Some of Attack of the
there are
Clones
some
is-
really bad things in those movies.
Yeah.
Writing and dialogue. Attack of the Clones has aged the least amount in terms of effects. The effects in that movie are not very
Yeah,
good.
I'd actually probably agree. Like, I think Attack of the Clones is almost the weakest movie.
I've always said that I like Clones a little better than Phantom Menace just because it gets closer to what Star Wars is. Phantom Menace feels very far removed from any of the other movies because it just doesn't tie into anything. It's the very beginning of things. It's almost like a film. Did we really need a movie where we introduce Anakin and Obi-Wan? Couldn't they have just started out together? Did we really? It's like he went back almost too far.
Well, the last 40 minutes of Clones is sensational.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yoda breaking out his lightsaber and like
All three of
oh,
these
man.
movies have highs. The pod race, the Duel of the Fates.
The pod race sucked.
Really?
I hate that.
Oh, well,
I got you.
I love that scene. I love the pod race.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And the Duel of the Fates. I think across the board, everybody likes the Darth Maul lightsaber
Yeah,
fight.
that 4-minute fight's awesome.
The music in Phantom Menace is pretty good. And Attack of the Clones, I like the speeder bike chase. I like the last 40 or 20 minutes of that film.
Yeah, definitely.
The Yoda and Count Dooku fight, I love that.
Yeah, the last 40 minutes generally that movie are
And
pretty sweet.
I like a lot of the stuff between Ewan McGregor and like Jango Fett, like all the stuff, and I like the fact that Attack of the Clones is a mystery. That's the first time that Star Wars has really kind of tried
that's
to
true.
go into other genres. I like that. I do think that the storytelling is a little more finite in Attack of the Clones. It makes a little more sense. Phantom Menace, I can't understand the Trade Federation and why that matters and why that was a big
why
part of
does
that
it?
story.
Why
I
do we
know
care?
I know what George was trying to do. He was trying to show that the Republic does not work and the beginning steps of how the Empire is formed. I just feel like the story he chose to tell, the Trade Federation, was not an interesting story device. Jar Jar annoys the piss out of me. I will say that I like the look of Jar Jar, and I do think that as an effect, he looks believable. It's just the way that character's portrayed is
He's
terrible.
a Sith Lord.
Yeah, it's terrible. And this is not Ahmed Best's fault. I'm not going to kick a dead horse on this. It's just the way he was directed. I think Lucas was more interested in getting a digital character than asking himself, why is this character in this story?
Right.
That's what really
You're right
hurts
about
the
Django.
Menace.
The Django stuff was pretty good.
Yeah.
With Obi-Wan.
For the most part, yeah.
And a lot of that is helped by Ewan McGregor because he is really good in all
But
these
Attack of
movies.
the Clones
So,
also
like,
has the lowest lows of the entire series.
Yeah, I
That
agree.
writing with Anakin and Padme is terrible. It's atrocious.
Dude, I'm sorry, I could not watch Phantom. I tried, dude. I tried watching Phantom Menace. I was like 40 minutes in. I couldn't take it anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you're kicking
I should watch it again. Maybe I should try it one
No,
more time.
you've told me this millions of times. If
I
you
know.
don't like it, that's
Just
fine.
God.
You're part of
It's
millions
bad.
of people that don't like it. It's cool.
bad.
It's fine.
The effects look bad. The acting's bad.
I don't think the effects look bad. The only effects that look bad in that movie is when you've got all the Gungans fighting the droids. Then
yes, okay, yeah.
then it looks like a Pixar movie. That hasn't aged well.
Okay.
And honestly, back then, that looked bad to me back then. I was
Right.
like, oh, this looks not great. Special effects really aren't quite there yet.
Now, what's interesting about this tier is you put Rise of Skywalker in it.
Yes. Because I think Rise of Skywalker has some lows, some things that I was just like pulling my hair out. Same as Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. And the storytelling is all over the place. It's like Phantom Menace all over again. It's a mess. There's no focus. I don't know why the movie is like that. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying it's a mess. It's the messiest Star Wars movie of all of them. And the whole the thing with the revelation of who Rey is just feels thrown together. There's no build up to that. You just throw that out.
The one thing
out
I
the window.
really liked about this movie, at least, though, is at least all the actors were together. Because I feel like they were all really good together. They all have good chemistry.
I enjoy that, but I enjoy that because the other two movies didn't have that, and they
Right.
should have.
That's
And
the one
that-
thing I did like. I liked having
Yeah,
Poe
I
and
mean, but
I liked
like-
having Poe and Finn together.
But like
with
you said,
Rey.
it's too little, too
that
late
was-
though. It should
it
have
was.
that
To
should
me,
have
it
happened at
was.
Force Awakens.
Yeah, to me it was. It didn't matter what they did with this movie. It was already over.
I think a big problem with this movie that's a point of contention and that has gotten a lot of criticism for obvious reasons is how they handled Carrie Fisher. This is such a difficult thing because you want her in the story. Obviously, Carrie Fisher passed away, so you're forced to write these scenes around these other existing shots of Carrie Fisher, and I just don't think it worked in this movie. I understand why it did it, but it hurts.
You know,
the
I
movie.
think it would have been better for Kylo to have killed her in Last Jedi before she went Mary Poppins. Like that
Possibly.
actually would have been fitting,
Yeah.
and more powerful, and more dramatic,
possibly,
instead of what they did with her in this movie. 'Cause
possibly. I don't know. Yeah.
The whole Rise of Skywalker, it seemed a little.
It's just there's no focus to this story at all.
At least Rose
I
got a
don't-
scene with her.
Yeah. I mean, I this is a movie that I could see watching maybe one or two more times on video.
And then being done.
Yeah. But it's still got some stuff in it that are just bad, like the introduction of these two new characters that they don't do anything with.
Can we talk about the kissing lesbians?
I guess I don't see.
No,
what
we
your-
don't have to. I know.
I don't see what your problem is with that. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I
If it
know.
was, here's if it was two guys, wouldn't that kind of bug you a little? What if two guys suddenly just started kissing?
I'm not a homophobe. I'm
I know,
all
but
for,
really, don't you think
I'm
you'd
all
be
for
like,
equality.
what the fuck?
God, who was it recently who? Stephen King. Did you hear about this? Okay, so he's under fire right now because he's one of the people who he's like one of the judges for the Oscars. I guess that when you're a writer, you can vote in certain categories.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So he said something akin to he feels creativity should come before equality. And he's under fire for that right now because, of course, Hollywood right now is all about getting equality in all these movies. Equality is fine, but I do feel that a lot of choices at the Academy Awards, especially in the last couple of years, have been based on, there's a lot of equality in these movies now, And Stephen King just went out there and said, I'm not going to pick a movie based on, the race of your, the race or your skin color. I'm going to pick the movie based on how good the movie is.
Which is fair.
Yeah. And I just feel like with Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm right now, they're kind of throwing these things down your throat.
But honestly, if it was two guys that kissed, you really wouldn't have a problem.
No.
I would.
I've seen some very gay based movies, dude.
Yeah, but we're talking Star Wars. This is different, isn't it? Really? You don't think that would have bugged you at all?
Why would two girls kissing be any different than two guys kissing?
Well, for us, it is different. I watch lesbian porn, not gay porn.
Okay. But this is Star Wars, though.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you for clearing that up, sir. Well, because we're guys. But, I mean, if you flip it, what if we were girls and we saw that in the theater? I'd be grossed out. Well, maybe not grossed out.
I don't
know. It's like seeing two guys. You're like, ugh. Your first reaction is, ugh, come on.
But I'm not a homophobe. Like, it doesn't, I mean,
it doesn't make
it
me
doesn't
a
feel
homophobe.
natural to me.
It just feels forced. It just felt like we have to include this. That's what I don't like.
I mean,
it
if you're
feels
gonna,
like
I feel like if you're going to be that bold to put two lesbians kissing, make two of the main characters gay. Have Pin and Foe have a gay sex scene or something. I don't do something like that. Then it's relevant. If
that would be something.
Yeah.
They kiss at the end. What the fuck? It's like the last frame of the movie. Yay!
I'd be fine with that.
What a gay send off.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
well, it's not big.
When characters, I watched a whole movie about a coming of age story of two guys that are gay, and I'll be honest, that was very uncomfortable. But at the same time, it's like it's kind of a bold
you gotta
decision.
watch Brokeback Mountain. It wasn't bad.
The movie that I saw, Call Me by His Name, was probably much gayer than that. I watched the whole movie, and it was a good movie. I mean, it was very touching, but it was a little uncomfortable for a heterosexual male to be watching it.
That was me at Moonlight. I watched Moonlight. And all of a sudden, he starts jerking off his friend. I go, what the fuck is that? Like, what the hell? It just totally swung. They started making it. I'm like, dude, what? I didn't know that movie was it was just caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
But no, I saw Brokeback Mountain. I have no problem saying I thought it was a good movie. You never seen it?
No.
Heath Ledger and I thought it was good, and it didn't like bug me. I know that there's scenes of them kissing, whatever.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a good movie about love, and And
you just think there needs to be enough context for it to work.
well, like that doesn't feel forced. That's a
Right.
movie about it, but like when
You
include
feel like
it
when
in
you see
Star
it in
Wars,
Star Wars,
it
at the
feels
last minute, it feels like it's in there
like
to,
agenda.
to throw in your
it feels
face.
like we
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah,
And you
I
never
do get
have
that.
to. That's the problem.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
do
have
get that
to.
sometimes.
That's what bugged. That it wasn't the
Yeah.
fact. It just felt forced. That's
But look at it the other way, though. Gays and lesbians, that whole community, LGBTs, they don't get a lot of representation in films. They do more now than they did 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you're into Star Wars, if you're into geekdom, geek culture, and you're never represented on screen, think about how empowering that is for you to see that on screen in a Star Wars movie.
I get that.
You got to look at it that way too.
Yeah.
So that's why that stuff doesn't bother me so much. Where it does bother me is in like the new the 2016 Ghostbusters film,
Oh God.
where it's done completely terribly. Like, yay, we're all
was
females,
bad.
but let's also make fun of females, and let's make fun of males, too, in a negative way. And then if you don't like the film, let's blame you for being a sexist.
Yeah, I know that whole. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's where it's done poorly. Star Wars, it's like, whatever, so they kiss.
Is
Who
it?
cares?
I don't know. It bugged me. I don't.
What, Star Wars?
All right, we can. Yeah.
Oh.
It's just different.
I
than Star
didn't, to be
Wars.
honest, I didn't
Is that
even
weird?
notice it. I really didn't
Oh yeah,
notice
you
it
were
when
like,
I
what are you
saw
talking
it.
about? The kiss. You figured
Yeah,
out
it was
about
all
Kylo.
online, but if you're focusing on that, I mean, that movie had much bigger
It's
problems.
all right there in the frame.
Let me ask you something. If Rise of the Skywalker had come out really good, had been like one of your best movies,
Yeah.
would you have really cared? See?
If it was two guys, yeah, I probably wouldn't have cared.
well,
for it.
whatever.
It was two girls. I didn't care.
It
Come on.
doesn't bother
Metal-
me. It's
Heterosexual.
yeah. Sometimes it can feel like an agenda, but also you're not gay.
Like that
as
shot
far
in
as I know.
Endgame. Remember that shot in Endgame? He's got help. all the girl heroes at the
Oh,
end.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
really like, come on,
And
a
that
little
could
too obvious.
yeah
That's
yeah,
all.
and that got a lot of
I think
criticism
it's
too.
annoying because it just feels like we're trying
But
to.
again, if you had breasts, I mean, if you were if you were female,
I do.
well, that makes two of us, buddy. It goes two ways.
So, anyways, we've got boobs.
So anyway,
Schmuckast.
but if you're a female and you see that scene, I can see how that'd be empowering too. So they're
or
trying
gross.
to or
Or
gross.
gross. One of the two.
Oh.
It's like we don't like watching guys kiss, so maybe girls
I'm
don't
talking
like
about
watching
the
girls
Marvel
kiss.
the Marvel thing.
Oh, sorry.
We're back to the kiss. Okay. Oh, maybe I don't know.
It turns one of the girls gay. She sues Star Wars. You made me gay.
I remember back when
stupid.
J.K. Rowling revealed that Dumbledore was gay, and that had nothing to do with any of the books.
Yeah.
Like, it had nothing to do with
He
any.
was after Snape's snake.
All right.
Anyways,
so
we're getting off topic here.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back to Rise of Skywalker. Boy, that sucked.
I just feel like that movie is just as forgettable and just as good or bad as Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. I think they're all the same kind of
Well,
quality.
it's like I said, it was too little too late.
You know. So this brings us to the 5th tier, Last Jedi.
All right, so this is where I turn my mic off. We've already had my.
We know
pitching
how you
session.
feel. Well,
So
let me ask
go
you
over
this.
it.
This
Go
is a
over it.
simple question.
Okay.
Was Last Jedi your least favorite?
Of all of them?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Maybe. It made me the most mad. I know that.
If I had asked you to sit through Phantom Menace or sit through Last
Oh,
Jedi, which
God.
one could you do?
I'd probably take Attack of the Clones over Last Jedi. That's
Okay.
it. Phantom Menace, yeah, that's about the same probably.
Okay.
That's fair.
Here's the thing with Last Jedi. I didn't think that Last Jedi had any real lows. I didn't think there was anything in that movie that was
The
terrible.
whole thing was low.
No, I didn't think there were any. There was nothing in there Jar Jar worthy, nothing like that. But there was also nothing. There were no highs either.
Right.
The whole movie was just
Wow.
meh all
Yeah,
the
meh.
way across.
Meh. That's a good word.
The only thing that really annoyed me, and this wasn't something that really was pulling my hair, it was just all of Ryan Johnson's subverting our expectations in a really boring, bad way, and it got irritating. I mean, I really did not like the revelation of Rey's parents. I did not like what they did with Snoke. I really didn't like what they did with Luke at the end.
It turned out to not even be true anyways, what he said to her. You know,
About her
I guess
parents
it
being
wasn't.
nobodies?
Yeah, I guess there really wasn't a revelation. Because
It
now that we know, but-
it was true. Her parents were nobodies. They were. They
Oh,
her grandparents.
Oh,
Her grandfather
sorry.
was
Anyways.
Palpatine.
They're all dreams. Nightmare on Elm Street, you dumb mother.
We should go back and redo our Nightmare on Elm Street podcast.
Sure, if you want. I'm sorry. Anyways,
Yeah. So that's Last Jedi. I can't really get behind. That was a chore to sit through. Like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. I still enjoy watching those movies. They're not great. I mean, they are very flawed. And I've always told you that I had a hard time calling them bad movies. But over the years, with so many Star Wars movies,
they're not bad if you cut out certain parts. You know what I mean? You could probably skip parts.
That's what I'm saying.
I would do that.
They have moments that I really like. Last Jedi doesn't have anything I really.
No, I
like
can't
or
skip to
care about.
anything good in that movie.
Yeah, I can't. Again, there's nothing in there that's Jar Jar worthy. The dialogue in that movie isn't terrible. It's just the story doesn't matter. Nothing in that movie really I care
I've
about.
said it once and I'll say it again. I do miss George
I love being a
Lucas.
turtle.
Yeah, I miss George Lucas.
Yeah,
I do. I think a lot of people miss him now because it just doesn't seem like the same anymore.
yeah.
And it's not.
I would have rather. And I understand why Disney chose not to go with his scripts, but I would have rather seen movies that he wrote.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to see where Lucas was going to take it because, we finally have the 9 movies that Lucas was talking about, but they're not really his 9 movies now. They're someone else's.
It's everybody's movies. It's Star Wars has gone beyond being a movie at this point.
Wow.
It's a phenomenon. It's crazy that it still is 40 years now. It's just as popular as it was back then.
I do find it very unique that with the franchise that's gone on for this long, they're still continuing the story. They really haven't rebooted the franchise. The same actors are pretty much
Thank God.
there.
Oh, God. What if they do that? Let's reboot
Well, I'm
it.
just saying, you look at something like James Bond, and it's like every 10 years they reboot James Bond. There's a lot more movies in that franchise, so you kind of have to.
It is interesting.
But all these legacy movies, they always typically do that. Star Wars is one of the rare exceptions. I think the only other movie I can think of, and it hasn't been around that long, Harry Potter. I mean, I was amazed that they really kept, aside from a few characters, they kept the same cast for 10 years. And that's even kind of rare these days. But Godzilla, James Bond, any of these long-running franchises, they always switch things up.
Keep
change
resetting
actors.
themselves.
Yeah,
And like
Star
Spider-Man
Wars,
now. Spider-Man 2 has reset
Spider-Man's
itself.
done it like 3 times, 4 times. I
Yeah,
don't
4
know.
times in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Peter's probably getting sick of getting bit by that spider.
Right. Well, that's why you got to see the Spider-Verse and the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. You have it?
I do. I love that movie.
Might be the one, Lenny. I'm gonna watch that too. I don't care.
But that one explains why there's different Peter Parkers. So anyway.
Oh, okay.
But
I digress.
So one other thing I'll say about these 5 tiers is if I was going to put on Solo and Rogue One, I'd probably put them in level 3, right there next to New Hope and Force Awakens.
I thought Rogue One was substantially better than Solo. Well, actually, I've never seen Solo.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No,
I can't knock
Rogue One, I wouldn't say was substantially better than Solo. Parts of Rogue One, that last act, the third act of Rogue One, was almost up there with Return of the Jedi. That, and even though I really never wanted to see Vader come back, the fact that they made Vader badass in that movie made it up to me. So parts of Rogue One I really enjoyed. But the first 2, like the first hour and a half of that movie, were kind of a slog.
So that's fair.
So,
That's a fair. Now, here's a good question. What if Mandalorian was a movie? Where would you put that?
Oh, that's a good one. I'd probably put it on the same tier as New Hope.
Oh, wait. With the other ones?
Yeah.
All the same.
New Hope,
Mandalorian
Force
and
Awakens.
Rogue One? I think
Yeah.
Mandalorian's doing a lot better job than Rogue One and Solo did.
It's a smoother ride. Meaning it's not as
It's like a
and
Corvette.
even Mandalorian has some weak episodes. So it's hard to say.
It did?
It did, yeah.
Which one?
Episodes I think 4 and 5, whatever.
Which ones were those?
The one with he's on the forest planet and they have that evil AT.
Oh, it's
And
like
then-
the Seven Samurai or something.
Yeah, and the one after that, where the one that most people say was the worst episode, the one where he goes to the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Yeah.
actually bad.
So there's only 8 episodes. So you got 2 episodes
okay,
that
so
are pretty bad.
scratch those
so.
two.
Well, I'm just saying.
But it ended well.
It ended pretty well. And Mandalorian is not breaking new ground. All those episodes are tropes of other genres. So it's cool to see them going back to basics and making Star Wars cool again.
Yeah,
But
I
at
agree.
the end of the day, I don't think it does anything that it doesn't get to Empire or Jedi level of quality. It's right there with A New Hope and Force Awakens. I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's like good Star Wars. Everything from A New Hope, Force Awakens, and up is good.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace and everything below that is.
All right, well,
you
that's
know,
fair. I mean, besides the New Hope controversy we had, I generally agree with that.
Oh, there
I
you
think
go.
that's pretty fair. I like it. That was gonna be your video.
Yeah, that's
Not
my
bad.
video.
Oh, any other thoughts or?
Well, we got the 6th tier of Star Wars, which you know what that encompasses: the holiday special and the 2 Ewoks.
Oh, you
make a
kind of
TV.
does. Yeah, I've
No.
never seen the holiday special. I still haven't.
I
think I've
have
just
it
seen
if you want to
clips.
watch it.
No,
I've never seen the whole thing all the way through.
I've seen like little clips. It's pretty.
I've seen the beginning of it where they're like on Chewie's planet, and it's fucking hilarious.
It is more funny. It works as a
It's-
comedy.
It works as a comedy completely, but it also makes you want to pull your hair out because you're just like, this is officially part of Star
Gosh,
Wars.
wasn't she pretty, Carrie Fisher? Man, when she was young,
She was, I don't know.
she was a doll.
I'm talking about in that Star Wars special, something was wrong with her.
Now that she's passed on, I feel bad, but we used to make fun of her weight.
Well, yeah.
Jabba the Hutt like put his soul in her. She killed him. Anyways,
You're
I'm sorry.
mean.
I'm sorry.
Stop being
Oh my
mean.
God, actually. So yeah, hopefully Disney or Star Wars has a good future. I guess that wraps up, huh? What do you think?
That wraps up our Star Wars talk. You want to talk Back to the Future?
Sure. I watched all 3 movies on Blu-ray. It was pretty cool, man.
When did you get the Blu-rays?
Next topic. At Disc Replay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, when did I get them?
Yeah.
I've had it for like a month now.
Oh,
I
okay.
got it for $12, I think, altogether. $12 for all 3 movies. Pretty good deal. It's a nice set. It's got a digital version and the Blu-ray.
Do you have is it the one where you have to, like, the special instructions for getting the disc out of the case?
No, there's 2 CDs on top of each other. It might be. I don't know. I
You
don't
got to,
think
like,
so.
push down in the corner to get the disc out?
Oh, yeah. Okay, that is it. Yeah.
That's one I have.
Yeah,
I
okay.
hate that.
Oh, I know. It is
So
stupid.
irritating.
Yes, I agree, actually. But yeah, no, just a really good trilogy.
Yeah.
I mean, really, all around.
I've loved that. That trilogy to me is more cohesive than even Star Wars in terms of how closely they fit together.
And I love all the little hints, like, throughout the whole movie, especially, like, the first movie. It's so self-contained, but, like, just how people repeat lines, but in a different era,
Yeah.
you know. I just, watching it again, you realize there's so many little things they do in that movie, little Easter eggs in the movie that, you know.
I especially love in that first movie how, you know, everything that they allude to in the beginning has a payoff at the end. The whole thing
Yeah.
with Marty learning how to skateboard and, you know, him with the guitar, you know, playing Johnny Be Good at the end.
Yeah, which was awesome.
You know, yeah, but, you know, at the very beginning of the movie, you know that's Huey Lewis, right? The guy who tells him you're playing too loud in the gym.
Oh, okay.
That's actually
Oh.
Huey Lewis.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, which is ironic.
You're just too damn loud.
Yeah, but then at the end of the movie, he starts playing. When he plays Johnny Be Good, he starts playing it really loud, and that's when everybody in the audience is like getting like kind of scared at what he's doing. You kind of understand now why.
What's kind of weird about Back to the Future, though, at the end of the movie, it's kind of weird that he's like in a different dimension almost, isn't he? Like Biff is all like, you know, an old man that watching his car.
Yeah, and there was
kind of creepy. Like he's.
because you know how they couldn't get Crispin Glover back for
Yeah,
2
I
and
heard
3?
it got ugly.
I've heard 2 different sides of that story, and Crispin Glover's reason for coming back was he didn't like the ending of Back to the Future. They had this big fight where Crispin Glover didn't like the fact, and this is fair, that at the ending everybody has a good ending. Like the ending, their lives have been changed because Marty changed the events of the past. So like what you were saying,
Yeah, it's
Mom
kind of
and
weird
Dad
that he's
are-
in a whole different
Yeah.
dimension.
right?
Pretty
and,
much.
and Crispin didn't think that it was an honest ending. And then the story from Bob Gale is that he wanted too much money, and they just
It would have been kind of cool for Marty to like go back to his real time, then end the movie. You know what I mean? Like go in that other dimension, freak out, and go back to his real actual time. that would have been a better ending because it's kind of weird that you just leave him in a different dimension. Well, I guess they do drive off at the end of the movie. So
Well, it's a different dimension, but his life is essentially better now.
Yeah.
He's changed the future.
but they do
for the
drive
better.
off right at the end of the movie, so it's not like it's the be all end all. I like how Biff wasn't he like cleaning their car. I mean, I was just getting the second coat.
Yeah. Well, I remember on the VHSs, they changed this for the DVDs, but on the VHSs, at the very end of the first movie, it always said to be continued.
Yeah.
I guess in the theaters, it never said that because they didn't know they were going to make a sequel to it. That whole scene of them flying off in the car at the end was a joke. They didn't mean to say that this is how
and
part
they
two.
changed the girl, right? Yeah, they changed the girl, and
Which is weird. I don't know. I've never heard the story of why they changed the girl.
I want to say Crispin Glover actually successfully sued them, like for using his likeness and stuff. That was the whole thing, as they were trying to use his likeness or something like that,
Which is weird because he doesn't look anything like Crispin Glover in the movie.
Well, I was watching part 3. I think he's off in the background,
Right,
out of
you barely
focus.
see him.
It's
Yeah.
obviously not him.
Yeah.
But I believe he successfully sued Zemeckis because they were trying to use past footage of him to put in the second movie. I forget what it was all over.
I heard something
got
about
ugly.
that.
It got really ugly.
Which is weird because he was in a Robert Zemeckis film down the road, I believe. After that, I think. I think he
Sure?
was in
I don't
Beowulf.
think he would have been.
I think it was in Beowulf,
Oh, okay.
which is a Robert Zemeckis film.
I like Crispin Glover. Jason killed him. But yeah, I mean, I liked all 3, and like you said, it's
Now
like
you
one
like
movie.
3. Now 2 is my personal favorite one, but you said you like 3 better than 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked them all though, but 2
Yeah.
to me was it was kind of confusing at points.
Really?
Not confusing. I don't know. I didn't like the makeup for one. I did not
Convoluted?
like the makeup.
Of the McFly family?
Yeah, that looked really bad. I thought.
I don't know.
That's a small quip. I'm not saying it makes the movie bad just because it has bad makeup. It just
Really
I don't know.
bad? I don't know.
I like all 3. I'm not.
I
don't wanna
actually
sit here and say I
didn't
don't
know
like it.
till recently that Michael J. Fox played the daughter. I think the daughter looks fine, which makes me feel really creeped out.
That is creepy.
I thought the makeup was fine, though. I don't know.
I think it was old Michael J. Fox didn't look very good.
Well, you got
McFly.
you got to
Not that
really,
big to
yeah, the older
Look, it eats your
characters.
son. I like in part 3 though the accident. Remember the accident he was going to have?
Yeah,
And ruin his whole life. And at the end of the part 3, they try to drag race him.
yeah. That whole
was
trilogy
sweet.
is all about making better decisions.
Yep.
That's
And Doc ends it perfectly when he says, "Your future is what you make it." You
Yep.
know, that's the best. And the whole series is a demonstration how time travel is dangerous. And how
that's
it could
why I like
completely
part
change
2 the
everything.
best. Part
Yeah.
2 shows you that.
Well, all 3 did in a way, didn't it?
Yeah, but part 2, that's what the whole story is about. The first
Yeah.
movie and the third movie allude to what happens if you misuse it. The second one, somebody
Actually
misuses
does it right? Yeah.
And that's why I like
That's
that
fair.
movie. And you get to see, 1985 changes. It's like an alternate dimension, really. Now they got to go back and change. Like
I
what
did
you were
like the
saying.
future too. The
Yeah.
future was pretty cool.
And I like the future because it's all jokes, and it's really cool to see now because it's past 2015, obviously. Some of
Yeah.
that stuff came to pass.
Yeah, you're right.
We don't have self-lacing shoes, but 3D came
Yeah.
back in a big way. They're still making a ton of sequels to old movies
Hey,
now.
son, what's with the light preserver?
Yeah, I love that trilogy. I always
Yeah,
love
no,
that
it's
trilogy. I will always.
Well, I
respect
definitely
that
would say the
trilogy.
original is the best piece of movie in that one.
That
trilogy.
that's fair. It's
movie's
hard
just
to
perfect.
it's hard to say
It's just too much fun.
what's best in that. Like I said, I just like the scope of 2. Plus 2 goes back to the first movie, and you get to see the
that's
first
what I like
movie
about it,
from
a
a different angle.
Yep.
And I like that aspect. Even Zemeckis said that was his most interesting movie he's ever done.
What I thought was cool in the first movie is when Marty McFly finally goes back and sees Doc get shot. As he was about to scream, "You bastard!" His other self does it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
When you see him about to scream, and then his other self does.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a lot of cool, clever tricks. It's well directed, well
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
A lot of cool camera work, the performances.
And
yeah.
parts 2 and 3
Just
came out
awesome.
like 5 years later, and the fact that they were still
Back
able
to
to
back,
reach
right?
that,
weren't they made back to back? 2 and
2
3?
and 3 were.
Okay.
But after the first movie, I'm saying they were like 5 years between 1
Yeah.
and 2 and 3. And to maintain that level of quality across the board is phenomenal because usually sequels, the further apart the sequels are, the less of a chance you have of recapturing lightning in a bottle. It's very rare.
Was Biff the same actor still?
Yep.
In part 3? He
Yep.
was the same in all
He's the
3?
same
Oh,
guy.
okay.
The principal makes an appearance as he's the cop in part 3.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah.
Was
Remember
Michael
that
J.
word
Fox
at all
really-
times, son. Discipline.
Wasn't Michael J. Fox really hanged in that movie? I read somewhere like that. It was actually like a legit. He was actually being hung. Like his reaction was genuine. We'd have to look that up. That'd be kind of cool
It could
trivia.
be. I don't know. Zemeckis is known for pulling our legs. I mean, there's a documentary where he talks about how the hoverboards were actually real. Like he got them from Mattel. It was like an early
He
prototype.
got people to believe that.
He did, yeah. Back in the day,
That's
in the
funny.
80s, it wasn't. It was totally a hoax. But it was all done on wires or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, I've just been on a big '80s kick myself, just watching everything from the '80s. Such a cool decade. You know, I'd say the last week I've just been
love
nothing
the
watching,
80s. Yep.
watching nothing but '80s movies, and they had lots of good movies, lots of them, lots of landmarks in different genres, and
Yeah, like Friday the 13th, the TV series.
yeah. And Friday the 13th series and Freddy, and it's still so cool just to pop in a random Friday the 13th dude and just chill out and watch it.
Yeah.
There's something about them. I don't know what it is, man. It's hard to explain, but it's almost like comforting. It's like an old friend. You know what I mean? Watching like part 2 randomly, it just feels like you're saying hello. to
Yeah,
somebody
for me, it's more nostalgia with those movies,
Yeah.
especially. Like I watch them now, and they're nice to pop in from time to time. It'll never, I always watch those movies with the fondness of what it was like to watch them as a kid.
Right.
And I don't have that same feeling now, and that's with most movies. We try to recapture that nostalgia. It never really comes back. It's like you said, it's like saying hello to an old friend. But watching
That's deep, man.
watching anything now like Star Wars, it's never the same as it was when I was a kid watching those
nice.
movies.
What was he saying, Clerks? That's beautiful, man. What's
Yeah.
up, Grizzly Adams? I liked your story about how you got into Clerks. That was pretty cool. That was like your intro to Kevin Smith, right? Was
Yeah.
Scream 3,
Scream
unfortunately.
3, yeah.
I'm sorry, that movie sucks. I hated
Yeah.
Scream 3.
Until Scream 4 came out, then I
You like Scream 2?
appreciated
I thought Scream 2 was okay.
I honestly didn't like Scream 3 when it first came out. I like it better now because Scream 4 came out.
What about Scream 2?
Scream 2 is good.
I thought Scream 2 was pretty good.
For a while I liked Scream 2 better than the first one, and then I watched
Billy's mother.
Yeah, I watched it again and I said, they did as good of a job as they could with it.
I thought it was good.
I think my biggest thing with that one was the kills weren't quite as disturbing. And again, I didn't like the killers at the end. Billy's mother makes sense. I didn't like that she
Right,
was
the random fucking film guy that you see for like 2 minutes.
But I didn't like how they made her the reporter the whole time. But
Yeah,
it
that's
was
true.
nice. It wasn't like Mrs. Voorhees where they just introduced her at the very end. She was in the movie the whole time. So I did like that she was present the whole time.
Yeah.
The fact that nobody recognized her. You would think that Courtney Cox's character would know who she was.
And you don't notice it until you watch it again. When you first watch the movie, you don't even realize she's in the movie the whole time.
Yeah.
But once you know, then you can spot her, when you're really looking.
Yeah.
She is in
Then
a lot.
what's cool about those movies is you watch it the whole time for the first time and you're like, who's the killer? Then you find out. You watch it again and you're like, God, this is so obvious.
Yeah. Like part 3 was bad. Was it like her brother's roommate or something?
No, it was her long lost brother.
The director of the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the director, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured. I forgot Jen Sabat walked through that movie.
Yeah, which is like, if you don't know who those guys are, it's great if you're a fan of those guys, I
And your friend
guess.
was cracking up, and you're like, what's so funny?
Yeah, I was pissed because I'm sitting there going like, God, this movie is not that great. And then
It's not.
And then they walk through, and I'm like, who are these? What's get out of my movie?
Don't you know who that is? That was your intro. The tragedy
my
with Kevin
intro.
Smith.
No, not the tragedy with Kevin Smith.
I think it's ever since he's been a pothead, he's gotten worse. Which I guess makes sense. From Zack and Miri on, dude, his work has been really
You don't like
weird.
Zack and Miri?
No, I said ever since that movie, though.
Like after Zack and Miri?
Yeah, it's been weird. And I think pot has a lot to do with it, because I know it's when he started, pretty much.
It could be. It's he wanted to quit for a long time. He wanted to do, I think, Clerks 3 was going to be his last one, and then he was going to
He
stop.
never strikes me as much of a director. He seems more like a writer to me.
Yeah.
And a big film buff. But he never struck me as like a director. Well, he is.
That's fair.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like his passion is writing. You know what I mean? I feel like he's done
That's
with
his
directing.
best aspect,
Yeah,
at least. It's
definitely.
because when he tries to do visual stuff, that's why like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot to me are the weaker movies because those are more about the visuals, and he's not
Right.
a very visual filmmaker. It's more about the stuff he writes. He still is one of my favorite filmmakers because again, it's not about the body of work; it's about the work that they did that was very strong. And Clerks 2, Chasing Amy,
Jersey Girl?
even Jersey Girl. Yeah,
Which is usually seen as not a very good movie, right?
I love that movie.
Oh,
I
okay.
really, really do.
Really?
I do. Yeah,
I got to see it.
It's a really good movie.
Is that Liv Tyler?
It is.
Is that why?
No, not at all.
Really? I
because
heard that movie was kind of panned, wasn't it?
It was panned because of Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. Yeah.
What's their name when they were a couple?
I know, yeah.
Bennifer?
Yeah.
Oh,
'cause
Gigi. We got to watch Gigi sometime or whatever.
Geely.
Oh, we got to see that, dude.
Nah.
It's so bad.
It's basically Chasing Amy. That's all it is.
But I think pot has had something to do with it. Didn't Bruce Willis complain that he was like always stoned during filming?
I think even Seth Rogen said he was too stoned.
Well, I think Bruce said he was stoned out of his mind
Bruce Willis did.
when he was directing that movie.
Cop Out, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you should hear Kevin Smith's stories about Bruce Willis.
He was like
I
a
mean,
dick.
Yeah. So
Well, sometimes personalities just clash,
Yeah.
You don't get along. And they were in Die Hard together, which is kind of weird too, right? Yeah, he was in Die Hard 4, right?
That's how he got the job for Cop Out. They were working together on Die Hard, and they were having some problems with the scene that Kevin Smith was in, and Kevin Smith was just like, let me rewrite this scene. And they let him, and then they had a good rapport, and then Bruce was like, hey, man, you make movies and I act in movies. Let's do something together, and they did Cop Out, and it just fell apart.
And as much as I love Clerks, it's pretty plainly shot, though. There's not like... Not that he had a budget to do, like, fucking crane shots and shit, but...
Clerks, yeah. Clerks is all
Very
about the
plainly.
writing.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
The people who try to do Clerks don't understand. Clerks doesn't work because of the subject matter. It works because it's very well written. It's not very well acted. The acting is...
I think the acting's okay.
The acting's serviceable. It's not bad, but it's not like... These are people from, like, high school that he knew, I think there were a couple of seasoned actors.
It's just too damn funny.
Yeah, it's the writing
really
that
the way.
sells it. It really
Yeah.
is. Even the first time I watched it, I was like, God, man, this dialogue is really sharp. Like,
Yeah.
Kind
Like with Pulp Fiction, it's like, holy crap. Like, that's very
Yeah.
sharp writing.
And that's why I said, like, once you have a good script, if you've got a very good written script, your chances of making a good movie are phenomenally better,
Oh, we're going to watch Beverly Hills Cop, which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
I saw a long time ago.
You didn't like it?
No, I just don't. It was too long ago. I can't really recollect.
Should we stop the podcast to get into Beverly Hills Cop?
Sure.
All right.
Then maybe we'll have something to talk about. We'll do part 2 later.
All right. Well,
there you go.
this is Lenny Sherman signing out.
for
Thanks
now.
for joining
For now.
Schmuckast.
Naked Men.